So you do get this great opportunity that you wouldn't get in a normal situation, to actually sit around the table, as you say, with 27 others and say, well, I hear what you're saying, but this is what is affecting us.
Well, hello, Graham.
Hello, Arnie.
Wow, it is so nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you again.
What a pleasure. What a pleasure to have this moment to speak to you today.
Yeah, all by the power of information technology, unlike usual.
Yes. I mean, you gotta make the best of the situation, and we do, because we catch up, and catching up is just great. We can just do it like this, and
Yeah,
and have a bit of a chat.
exactly. In some ways, it's a bit easier than over the telephone, I have to say. I prefer to see who I'm speaking to rather than just a voice on the end of the line. So it's better like this.
Of course.
It's better. So.
You've been on my list of people I wanted to speak to for so long. Do you know this? Because you have such an interesting story. I mean, it's really great. So we're gonna just catch up and talk a little bit about the world of customs from your perspective. You have a very unique perspective as a Brit in Europe. So we're going to talk about a lot about that. We are going to talk about your experience with EU customs and the good and the kind of, questionable things from your perspective. And of course, as a Brit, we won't get around the topic of the B word, isn't it?
Yes. Some heady topics there to address in 20 or 30 minutes, I have to say. But we'll see what we can do, how far we can go and delve into it.
So let us find out a little bit more about you. Who is Graham, and what's the relationship with customs, and how did we meet?
Oh, right. Okay. Well, let's start with part one of that. Well, I'm Graham Austin, and I'm the director of a company called GBAT Beckenham, and also GBAT B Media, and we're a communications company, and sort of like we handle questions like customs and other areas as well. And I suppose I'm in a unique situation because originally I got involved with customs questions when I was working for the British government about 32 years ago. There was a lot of changes taking place in the UK government. I worked for the business department, Department of Trade and Industry, as it was called at the time. And although I'd never worked in customs, I set up a unit to specifically examine the economic impact of customs procedures with economic impact. So we used to undertake economic tests for industrial goods. And that I kind of applied it in a very imaginative way, if I could put it like that, one which was seeing it more as just a set of customs rules, but something that could actually help businesses if they understood it better, such as with inward processing relief and outward processing. And a lot of people weren't aware of those possible opportunities, and so help package that into a sort of export related message. And as a result,
right, I don't want to interrupt you, but currently today on Gov UK, you can see, I mean, it's so crucial, the messaging, that the wealth of information that needs to be put out there. It really requires communication experts and specialists to communicate something so complicated in a way that businesses can actually understand, because we don't have that long, right? We have 5 minutes to look at the government website, find out what the key things are, and then my business calls already, right? So communication is as important as the actual customs import.
Yeah, exactly. Awareness of the rules, what the opportunities are, understanding how it's not something to be afraid of, but something to work with. I think is is quite important. And that's always been my message since I got involved in this. And as I say, is that like one of the things that I got involved with at that stage back in the early 1990s was setting up a database to sort of interrogate the economic results of our work, to find where the weaknesses were in why we were importing, why we needed to sort of like export to various places. And as a result of that, I was invited to go and work at the European Commission, who had just started an exercise in modernising the economic regimes, as I mentioned, inward processing, outward processing. And we were also doing outward processing of textiles as well at the time. So I kind of walked into that with my experience of what I was doing in the UK. And I worked there, went there for 1 year as a national expert, and ended up staying for about 4 years. But we got through some real work, as you can imagine, moving from the way things originally were. This is the early days after the single market, and all these the customs code was really based on national legislations that were sort of dragged together, and then they were welded into the customs code. Sort of as we approached the single market year of 1992 or 1993, whichever side of the channel you were on. So the first opportunity was in the mid-90s to look at the economic regimes, and we started modernising those. And I think we took it from a very sort of like good angle, and we managed to modernise. And I'd like to think that was possibly, or that possibly showed what the potential was to modernise the rest of the legislation, the customs code, in that modernisation process. But after 4 years working for the European Commission, I set up GBAT Beckenham and went to, based in Brussels, work with companies around Europe on customs issues and other business-related questions. And it's been a long circle. As much as I tried, I could never get away from customs. And so I'm back very firmly in the customs arena again.
I learned a lot just now. I did not know this. We've been working together for, it must be now 2 decades or
easily.
And I did not know all the story that you were actually employed by the European Commission at some point. Well, I wonder how the spread gets to be so Brussels centric. And now I know once Brussels gets a hold of you, they won't let you go again, right?
Yeah, that's right. You can take the boy out of Brussels, but you can't take the Brussels out of the boy.
So we met at the TCG, and a lot of people have asked me about, okay, Arne, you are on the TCG, you represent associations at the TCG. This TCG seems to be super important. What is the TCG, and what's your role in the TCG? And just tell us a little bit about TCG.
TCG,
if you don't mind.
Well, TCG, or the Trade Contact Group, what the acronym stands for, was created when they looked at modernising the customs code way back at the end of the 1990s, start of the millennium. And I'm glad to say that they recognised that to make that process a lot more efficient, that business should be involved in the construction of the modernised customs code. And so they set that up around about 1999, year 2000, the Trade Contact Group. And it's a group of European-wide trade associations, so that they can reflect across their particular industries what the issues are in terms of customs from their perspective. And I'm on there because of I work very closely with Eurocommerce, and we work with them for various businesses that I represented, and then I actually started representing Eurocommerce as well. at the Trade Contact Group as the customs rapporteur for them. So I'm very much a retail person when it comes to customs, and before that I was involved with customs from the travel retail perspective, duty free.
Wow, we're getting very close to the area of my interest as well, right? You dropped the name there. That was Eurocommerce. Quickly explain what Eurocommerce is.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Eurocommerce. It's the European-wide retail and merchant organisation. It looks after merchants, be it retail, wholesale, importers, exporters. It's an incredibly unique organisation, really, because you've got companies in there which are just small, micro-size members, right the way through to the big international global companies, some of the big hitters. So it's got a very wide constituency across a whole raft of EU affairs, but obviously customs in that area is very important, because international trade is an important area for them, and one they've been developing for some while.
So, if you don't mind me asking, what does Eurocommerce get out of the Trade Contact Group, point one, and reverse is also true, what does the European Commission, the policy experts, the Trade Contact Group get out of Eurocommerce participation in this? In other words, why should we bother talking to the European Commission about customs?
Right. Okay. Well, I think really it goes back to my favourite word when it comes to working with officials, and that's partnership. And in any partnership, you need to understand the other partners' concerns, what their aims are, and I think by actually creating that forum in the Trade Contact Group, you actually do that very well. And by doing so, it means that we understand what the politics of the situation are that the officials are dealing with, as well as officials understand what the actual working on in the field is like as well. It's one thing to write nice black and white legislation from an office in Brussels. It's another thing to actually see that applied in working practice out in the field. And so I think that's the real beauty and the resource of the Trade Contact Group, is that you bring these people together, you bring us all into the same forum, as you know. You are an active participant there as well for your particular organisations, and so you do get that opportunity that you wouldn't normally get in quite the same way if the Trade Contact Group didn't exist. It does actually have some rules of procedure within it, and so it does create an opportunity to raise questions in a way that you couldn't normally do, and I think that's something which I would like to see further developed.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, it's been a joy, a pleasure, and a unique opportunity to engage on subject matters that I mean, you could not get more geeky than this. I mean, the level of granularity is insane. I'm sorry, there is like, we discuss a may and a must of article this, but it's so important, right?
Yeah.
But in order to competently speak about the subject, you've got to understand it. You've got to be able to engage, and you've got to hold your argument.
Yeah.
If you sit in front of 27 member states and your trade colleagues, you better know what you're talking about. Yeah. Otherwise, you don't stand a chance. Yeah. Agreed?
Yeah, I do. I fully agree, and I think that's also the other benefit of the Trade Contact Group. There are two levels to it. There's the plenary Trade Contact Group, where it's the representatives of the trade bodies around the table with the Commission, looking at an agenda. Excuse me. But also there are a number of meetings of management meetings, regulatory meetings with member state experts, which take place on a regular basis. And the Trade Contact Group is often invited to those meetings as well, so that they can give their input. So you do get this great opportunity that you wouldn't get in a normal situation, to actually sit around the table, as you say, with 27 others, and say, well, I hear what you're saying, but this is what is affecting us. This is what happens to people on the ground when they're trying to put this into effect. And so I'd like to think that the modernised customs code, the Delegated Act and the Implementing Act are better than they would have been if they hadn't have involved trade from the very beginning. Yeah. And I'm sure that I and others would always say that, yeah, that's great. We could do more, and that's something I think we should be looking to in what's coming up in the close future as well, with the Customs Action Plan and the review of the application of the UCC, Union Customs Code. So I think that they're all things that we could be developing, and that's really something that's to me quite exciting. That we're still in the frontier of all of this, and the European Union is a very unique customs union. You have to say that there is very few like it. 27 leading economic nations which have this treaty between them to work within certain rules and create this agreed border around themselves, where within that they can actually move goods freely backwards and forwards once they've entered into free circulation. It's something which is very special.
In a way, it's unique, you know.